Soup's on at Victory Church in Port Perry. Courtney McClure, The Standard. Scugog. Victory Church in Port Perry is hosting a weekly soup kitchen called Soup's On, which is available on Wednesdays from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. They serve freshly prepared soup, buns, desserts, coffee, and tea. The kitchen has been open for about a month and will continue until the end of April. We just wanted to offer people a place they can come to get a hot meal, explained Ms. Leanna Benshop, Associate Leader and Administration Director at Victory Church. She added, Soup's On is another way for many seniors in the community to socialize. The event was created in partnership with Operation Scugog, the local food bank, and a few other churches in Port Perry. Each participating church brings its own volunteers and soup to help support the service on Wednesdays. The soup is prepared in a food-safe kitchen at each of the churches. A soup kitchen is not a new concept to the Scugog community. In past years, local churches have joined forces to run operations like Soup's On. However, this is Victory Church's first time hosting a meal service at their location. All are welcome, said Ms. Benshop. Victory Church is located at 593 Alma Street in Port Perry. For more information about Soup's On, please call the church at 905-985-1346.
Kawartha Lakes Council to start deliberating budgets this month. Dan Kearns, The Standard. Kawartha Lakes. After a month of budget presentations, overviews, and orientation sessions, Kawartha Lakes Council will begin to deliberate the 2023 municipal budgets this month. At a budget meeting on Thursday, February 2nd, CAO Ron Taylor provided the timeline for budget deliberation meetings. A special council meeting will be held on Tuesday, February 14th for councillors to discuss, possibly make changes to, and approve the capital budget. 2 weeks later, on Tuesday, February 28th, councillors will have the chance to do the same with the operating budget, special projects budget, and the water and wastewater budget. All of these budgets will combine to form the overall municipal budget. Mr. Taylor stated, inflationary pressures and ongoing asset management are two of the pressures facing this budget. I really do think you have a good budget in front of you, Mr. Taylor said. Mayor Doug Elmsley noted this budget supports over 200 city services, and he's heard other municipalities are looking at tax increases between 5 and 14%. The proposed Kawartha Lakes budget increase is 3%, with an additional capital levy of 1.5%. For more information on the proposed budgets, visit www.kawarthalakes.ca.
Welcome to You've Got to Be Kidding, a podcast that offers a different perspective of life around us. Listen now to author Jonathan van Bilsen.
Local theater is something I've always enjoyed, not because of the short drive home afterward, but because of the talent in our community, which never ceases to amaze me. I had the pleasure of attending the current Borrellians productions entitled Live from Port Perry Town Hall 1949. I was not sure what to expect other than 1949 was the year of the massive snowstorm, the likes of which we've never seen. I was not disappointed. The story is about 3 very popular radio plays in the 1940s, and they're being produced in the Port Perry Town Hall in 1949. The setting, albeit familiar, was hilarious largely due to the performances. Chris Cole played the lead, and he was amazing. Graham Powell, who's an established actor in this area, pulled off a fantastic British accent, and our own Howard Lynn Scott had me in stitches. The play was produced by Carolyn Goff, who is certainly not new to the stage. Her portrayal of Maggie and Cat in a Hot Tin Roof a few years ago was outstanding. Her nearly 3 dozen film and television roles include The Border, Loser, and more recently, The House. The play was written and directed by the very talented Bill Baker. When he was 8, Bill's father sat him down and explained how radio was the main entertainment for the previous generation. He promptly put a record on the family hi-fi, and Bill was mesmerized by the serials of The Lone Ranger, Superman, and of course, The Shadow. Bill was hooked, and the experience was always in the back of his mind. When the opportunity to write a play about those shows arose, he jumped at the chance. In Live from Port Perry, Bill takes us back in time and introduces us, or in some cases reintroduces us, to Fibber McGee, Sherlock Holmes, and the Great Gildersleeve. Each of these productions were entertaining and quite hilarious. The audience becomes fully immersed in the show, which adds to the positive experience. The town of Port Perry is an excellent backdrop, and references to some of the locations are memorable. They even mention Giroux's Bakery, one of the town's institutions. If you have a chance to catch the performance this weekend, I'd recommend it. You'll laugh out loud and reminisce of days gone by. I'm Jonathan van Bilsen, and this is You've Got to Be Kidding.
Scugog approves the majority of their 2023 capital budget. Dan Kearns, The Standard. Scugog. Scugog Council approved most of their 2023 capital budget at a recent meeting. However, one project in the budget was extracted for further conversation in March. At their meeting on January 30th, councillors saw a report which recommended the capital budget be approved in the amount of $11,924,000. Some of the projects in the budget include a $100,000 service level review, $150,000 for the creation of a new township website, $2.5 million for work on the south link of the second access to Scugog Island project, and $75,000 for a playground replacement at Roy E. Carter Park in Blackstock. However, what garnered the most discussion around the council table was a fees and charges study budgeted at $55,000. A report in the proposed budget explained what this project would entail. This study would establish the full cost of providing services in the township of Scugog and calculate appropriate fee rates for recovering those costs. The review will focus on fees imposed under the Planning Act and the Building Code Act and the Municipal Act. A high-level review of municipal leading practices with respect to some of the fees considered will also be included in the study. Ward 1 Councillor David Leroy wanted to have the project removed from this year's budget. I'm interested in not spending money unnecessarily. I would argue the township would understand what it costs to provide a service, so I am not sure why we would hire a consultant to tell us that, he explained. After much discussion, Ward 4 Councillor Harold Wright asked for this project to be separated from the budget and for a conversation on it to be tabled until March 6th. I would appreciate more time to look at it, if that's possible, he said. On another budget topic, Regional Councillor Ian McDougall questioned if the township staff know what this year's tax increase could be ahead of operating budget discussions. I'm still working on it. I'm in the process of preparing a report. I'm almost ready, Treasurer Laura Barta responded. We have some significant numbers still to crunch. Scugog councillors told a lack of affordable housing is a key issue. Dan Kearns, The Standard. Scugog. Scugog councillors were told at a meeting on Monday, February 6th, homelessness is a growing issue in the township. Ron Houston, the chairman of North House, appeared in front of councillors to discuss this issue and to promote their upcoming Coldest Night of the Year event. North House is a non-profit organization which provides a spectrum of housing support for at-risk individuals in North Durham. Homelessness is on the rise in Scugog. Most of those who are homeless in our communities do not live on the streets covered in sleeping bags. They are your friend's adult child who moved home with their own children due to the high cost of rent. It's the retired parents who now live in their child's basement because they can no longer afford their own home. Or the cousin who sleeps on your couch while searching for an affordable apartment, Mr. Houston explained. He added, this crisis is prevalent and ever rising. Mr. Houston stated 67 households accessed North House's services in 2022, with 41 of those households being new clients. It's not just single people or couples, but also families, he said. There are currently no homeless shelters in the North Durham communities of Scugog, Brock, and Uxbridge. Transitional housing does not really exist in the north either, and permanent housing is harder and harder to find, Mr. Houston noted. This year, the annual Coldest Night of the Year event will be held on Saturday, February 25th at the Port Perry United Church. The check-in time for participants is at 4 p.m., with remarks and the walk starting at 5 p.m.
Is love a feeling, or what? Before the next issue of the Standard is released, Valentine's Day will have come and gone. However, does the greater inspiration to love have to have done the same? Love expresses itself in many varied ways, barring overstated amorous physical passion or using the words of love as an effort to manipulate. So many of us struggle with the very meaning of love, and, even more, the perpetual method of its clean expression. Through us, most efforts are intended to be true, but find themselves interfering with the intention love itself has in mind. Now, before you feel I'm waxing romantic or poetic, and so a bit abstract for some, let me clarify what I mean by love. I simply mean the entity of God and the manner in which he conveys his nature. The Bible very directly states, God is love. This is found repeatedly in 1 John 4, verses 7 to 16. Being that love is God's very nature, not just an attribute of his character, we who have accepted the call of his shepherding of our lives must also express his nature to others. 1 John 3, 16 to 23. In this, we experience the true desire and design of God for our lives. After all, who would not want a world where wars cease even within our own heart? Abundance is easily shared, not just as a government function, but through us as individuals, and people are moved at any personal expense as our actual hands reach out to aid another with our time, so they may stand healthy in life. Some of the difficulties come when we attempt to share what we assume is love, and it runs up against a different assumption of how love is to meet the life we have concern for. In other words, they're not comfortable with how we want to care for them. This can be because of a difference in philosophy of life, a difference of preference in general, or because of pride, while being in the moment's circumstances. Either party can have the creeping subtlety of pride. Sometimes when we make an effort to be kind to another, a soft shift in our goals can take place, and we can harbor a desire for eventual recognition of our efforts. Well-meaning at the start, we can be led astray by the cost of our time, energy, and effort, as these are all limited commodities. As in Matthew 6:21, LSV, Literal Standard Version, "For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also." We tend to get anxious when results are less than we hoped. There is a popular teaching on the topic of relationships, which says the one who is right for you is the one who makes you feel good about yourself when you are around them. While the converse may be true to avoid, in that you should not perpetually feel bad around a person you are connected with, this is a very shallow edict to live by. There are many reasons why a relationship is not working well, the least of which is whether a person you hold dear is actually right for you. Finances, uninformed upbringing about caring, lack of knowledge about the opposite sex's needs and temperaments, plus life histories can all interfere with the proper ebb and flow of the efforts of love. One important question to ask is a heart ready? This can require patience and time, much like, is the soil ready? Farmers know this well, watching and waiting and nurturing forward. Under the surface, in the unseen place, soil conditions are active and changing. The right time is synchronous with temperature, rain, and these changes. Yet there is a greater way to offer a greater gift of love. Along the line of market management, which multiplies what's being invested, like planting seed which multiplies when conditions are best, God alone knows what conditions are best for expressing his nature of love. Only God can truly see the unseen changes happening beneath the surface in a person's life. In 1 Corinthians 2, verses 6 to 16, it reveals only a person's own spirit knows what goes on inside them. This is their inner soil, and it is understood God also knows, as his Spirit searches all things. It also states what God has in store for those who love God is beyond imagining. He has great expressions of his nature, which we may take part in to touch another's life and bring life, even in their darkest times, if we will look to him for these seeds, so to speak. This brings us to the need for prayer. It is not just a to-do list we bring to God, or a request list we bring to the imagined Santa Claus heart of God either. It is rather a place, time, and effort to wait, undisturbed by other things. A place we go to in private to ask God to show himself and speak to the need upon our heart. The greatest gift we can bring to God is love for him and the desire to see another's life blessed in what weighs them down. The willingness to wait, patiently read his word, the Bible, and continue until he imparts the gift to address that other's life is the sincere effort to honor his heart and defer to the understanding God alone is love. Therefore, It is the quintessential expression of relating to God and the highest, most effective expression of love for another. When we can admit, in practice, we are not the answer to another person's problems, even at our best, this is when we can become willing to be participants in that answer as vessels to carry God's best to someone else. So in practice, we become His hands, His communicator of His words, and assist in His guidance and provision for the one we love. This is our neighbor, our friend, a member of our own family, and certainly the love of our life. Let's give them God's best as we learn to be ministers all of God's own heart. What a thing Valentine's Day reminds us of. More than romantic amour. Break with peer pressure and give to a life what our God of love ordained. You, in deed, in listening, in providing, and in staying with them in it always. What a privilege, yourself governed by God's way. Happy Valentine's Day and happy seasoning.
You've Got to Be Kidding was presented by X4 Media with permission from the Standard Media Group. We endeavor to make all information contained in this program as accurate as possible at production time. X4 Media and the Standard Media Group are not responsible for any liabilities resulting from information contained in this program. For more information, please visit x4media.ca.
The Standard Podcast was produced by Greenstream Studio for the Standard newspaper.